it down, speak louder. That was my name. Yeah. Eagerly leaving the scene to go and chase his dream. On a mission, wishing ever since he was only 15. With sincerity, I'll never give in to the popularity. The clarity's a rarity when you're compared to me. Now where were we? And I don't mean to be cocky, but I'm never doing this sloppy. And all that hating, it's not me. So I'm original, no copy. Can't copy my swag. I'm spitting, licking, twisting like my name was Mickey Fats. And I'm the 11th freshman on the cover, double XL. Didn't get any recognition cause I forgot how to spell. Fixed it with the quick systems, now I got spit quick as hell. Now I'm doing it well. Ain't hard, but I bet you can tell. And I'm locking my method, that's it.
All right. Joining me today is a special guest that I'm super excited to talk to. Starting center for the Birmingham Stallions, Jordan McCray. Jordan was able to be a part of the first ever winning team in the new USFL. The Stallions won their game against the New Jersey Generals 28-24 on the strength of a game-winning touchdown with a key block thrown by McCray himself. So I'm going to go ahead and play a short intro video for him, and then we'll bring him on. How's it going, Jordan?
Pretty good. How about you, man?
I definitely cannot complain. Like I said in the intro, super excited to talk to you tonight. And once again, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate you just being so cool about it. I just hit you up on Twitter, and you're like, "Sure, why not? Let's do it." It was awesome.
Yeah, it's no problem at all. I'm happy to be on, man.
Definitely. So why don't you go ahead and give us a quick intro to yourself from in your own words, and then we'll get into detail as we go.
Jordan McCray, offensive lineman. Played a little bit of everywhere, but started in Miami for Miami Southridge Senior High. From there, UCF. Then graduated in 2014 after the Fiesta Bowl, and been a lot of different places after that. So almost too many to name, but Green Bay, Minnesota, Carolina, and we'll get all into it a little bit later. But still loving playing ball and just looking for any opportunity to get better and showcase my talent.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I kind of ask everybody this because I'm just curious. What age did you begin playing football, and what inspired you to play the game?
So my 9th grade year, so I guess 14 is when I started playing. I've always been a really big kid, and down south in Miami, there's a weight limit to play Pop Warner ball, and I was probably that weight. The highest weight was 150. I was 150 in 5th grade, so I was always a big kid. My dad didn't feel like it was good for me or any of my brothers to play at that age, so we just waited until we got to high school.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. That's way late for most players that are playing at the level that you play at. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So have you always played offensive line, or did you move around a little bit more when you were younger?
I always had dreams of playing something else, but my dad was an offensive line coach. I was a late bloomer athletically, so and a big kid, so it kind of just fell right in my lap. Yeah, I played offensive line my entire career, nothing else.
Gotcha. Other than a slight midnight position of tight end. But
Yeah.
We'll talk about that here shortly. I learned something in my research of Jordan, which was kind of cool. But you get to high school in Miami, Florida. You're playing football. Are you already looking at the possibility of playing college ball, or was that too far off to think about at the time?
No, that's really been my goal. Like, even though I wasn't playing football at a young age, I knew that was something that I was going to be a part of because my dad was a coach for such a long time. And then looking up to my older brother, he was a really good ball player as well, and kind of been my dream since I was a little kid to make it to the NFL. So that's always been it. You got to go to college in order to make it to the league. So yeah, that's always been in my thought process.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. How much older is your older brother?
5.5 years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so
Yeah.
not quite as much older as I thought. I couldn't
Mm-mm.
find his age anywhere for some reason.
Yeah, no, he is
Um,
just turned 35 in January. So yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. So not too much older. What's
Mhm.
he doing these days?
He's actually a pastor down south in Boca Raton.
Gotcha,
He had a really good college career. Started over 40 games, but didn't try to make it to the NFL or anything like that. He was content where he was at and just picked up his next passion, which was preaching. So he's been doing that since he left school.
gotcha. That's awesome. That's
Hmm.
awesome. Touching lives in a different way.
Exactly.
So after high school, you and your twin brother both settled on UCF. Talk to me
Yeah.
about the options you had at the time and what ultimately led you both to choose UCF.
Didn't really have too many options for both of us to go to the same school, and that was ultimately the goal. The only place that we wanted to go was someplace that we can go together. And then my older brother played a big part in that as well, because even though he is that much older than us, he was still playing at UCF while we were being recruited and was awarded a medical red shirt. So we actually got to play with him for our first 2 seasons there. So that kind
Awesome.
of like made a decision for ourselves.
Absolutely. I would
Yeah.
have done the same thing. How can you
Yeah,
pass that up? That's so cool. Let alone playing with one brother, but both of your brothers, that's cool.
exactly.
So as a freshman, you joined a roster that was stacked. I totally forgot about that UCF roster until I started
Hmm.
researching your career. But I mean, you had Blake Bortles, Latavius Murray, AJ Boye, Bruce Miller, Kamar Aiken, Quincy McDuffie. I mean, as well as yourself and both your brothers. I mean, when you were
Hmm.
playing at UCF, did these guys stand out among the rest, or was your whole roster just this good and you guys were the ones that kind of got the correct opportunities to make it where you're at?
No, we had a really good roster at UCF. A lot of guys weren't that far off talent wise, but maybe some guys got bigger breaks or just stayed healthy a little bit longer. So it was a lot of talent on that team. Like and then even when we left, there was even more. Like Brashad Perriman's on that team, on a lot of those teams. Rennell Hall, um, many draft pick, Josh Robinson. Like a lot of guys just were able to showcase their talent. And UCF was an up and coming school, and I feel like we kind of paved the way for some of the things that they're doing nowadays.
Absolutely. To be completely fair, I only looked at the roster when you were a freshman. I did
Oh
not look at the
yeah,
roster later on. So there was probably many more NFL players on that roster throughout your career, I have no doubt. And
hmm
USFL players, CFL, all over the place, which was really cool to see. I mean,
hmm
UCF is not a school you hear a whole lot about as much as you probably should, honestly.
yeah,
And yeah, it was kind of like, oh yeah, they were really good that stretch there. Which I don't really follow college ball that closely, but that was definitely cool to recap all that for me.
yeah,
Another guy that was on that roster was Rob Calabrese. Hopefully, I said that last name right.
yeah. Calabrese, we call him Cali. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Hmm.
he's the current quarterback coach for the New York Jets as well. I mean, what do you attribute all this talent to? Was it the recruiting coordinator Brent Key, or was it head coach George O'Leary? I mean, what drew all of this talent down there?
Well, the location is one thing for sure, and then at least for a lot of guys, a lot of the talent came from South Florida, and guys went to places that was close to home, but not close enough to like they didn't want to be right in their backyard. So, and UCF was a school that had some tradition, but we knew we can go there and make a name for ourselves and build something that could be keep growing. Like the start of a legacy. So, I attribute that. We had great coaches as well. I still talk to Coach Key probably once a month now. So, and I would attribute a lot to him as well, and just all the coaches that were there at that time.
Absolutely. They must have had a pretty good staff to lure all you guys there. That's for sure. I was just naming a few. During your college career, your offensive line coach was the aforementioned Brent Key.
Mhm.
What are some key points you learned from him during your time together?
Really how to play the position. Coach Key is a very technical coach, and when when me and my brother got to school, we were just pretty athletic offensive linemen, but he was able to mold us into pretty much the players that we are now, like with the techniques he taught. And I think one of the best things Coach Key did was not make like a lot of coaches will try to mold every player into this one type of guy, and he would look at your best attributes and see what worked well for you to get the best player that you can be, not just a mold of the guy that he wants. So it takes a little bit more time and effort to do coaching that way, and I feel like we greatly appreciate it and got a lot better because of it.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the big things that we see more and more in modern day coaching. They seem more apt to try and work with the player rather than try and force them into a position and hope they work,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I personally am all for. There's a lot
Mhm.
of great players out there that never made it because coaches tried to pigeonhole them in the wrong spot, and um, it's interesting to see how the everything's changing now with the modern day.
Yeah.
Um, are there any tips you feel comfortable passing along to the younger linemen out there trying to come up in the game today?
Um, I'll probably just say like take every rep that you get, whether it's mental walkthrough or actual game rep or practice rep, make make it like a real game rep because if you're a backup, you're not going to get as many reps as a starter, and if you're a third string guy, you're not going to get as many reps as a second string. So you got to find ways to make an advantage for yourself. If somebody is messing up on the first string, then that's a learning rep for you as well. Like you can't just look at it, oh, that guy messed up, so I'm not going to mess it. You got to make sure that the mistakes that somebody in front of you makes or anybody on your team makes is a mistake that you can learn from. So just using every opportunity that you have to get better is probably what I'll tell a younger lineman.
Absolutely. So I see that number 63 chain on you.
Oh yeah.
Is 63 a special number to you?
Really, when I got to UCF, or when me and my brother got to UCF, my older brother had number 65. They gave Justin 64, and they gave me 63, and it's just stuck since.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's cool. Uh, you always see players move around numbers a lot, so I always wonder if they grow an attachment to any of them.
oh yeah. No, I wore a lot of numbers in my career, but 63 is what I would call mine. So
Absolutely. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, the center position has always struck me as the hardest position to play. I mean, you've got to read the defensive line, make the protection calls, then you're
mhm.
expected to snap the ball, get your head up, and in your stance in a split second before a defensive lineman hits you in the face. I
Yeah.
mean, this is something that you've mastered throughout your career. Is there a way you can practice this, or is it just like you said, you go hard every rep you have and you just make the most of it?
The thing I would probably well, you got to watch a lot of film and make sure that you know what the defense is doing, but also have a handle of the offense, so you know what calls to make when the defense lines up the whatever way they might, and just practicing snapping because you can't think about snapping then think about playing. It has to be second nature. So that after you get that aspect of it, it becomes a little bit easier or second nature. But it takes time. It takes a little bit of time to develop, though.
Absolutely. So not to put you on the spot, but did you watch the Michigan game at all?
I watched. Well, I watched all of it now because we play Houston next, and that's who they played against. So I didn't watch it live, but I caught bits and pieces of it live, and now I've seen it all.
Gotcha. So did you see all the center exchange issues they had? Do you have any input on that specifically?
Um, yeah, it could be a number of things, like just a lapse in concentration. It's not always the center. Sometimes it's the quarterback, but especially if you're going in a different direction, you kind of have to lead the ball a little bit. Because if I'm opening my hip up to go to the right, the ball naturally is going to go a little left. So you got to lead the ball a little bit to the right so it can center it. And if that's not something that you practice often, not saying that they didn't or anything like that, but
Mhm.
it can become a problem. And then once you start thinking about the snap, it kind of gets worse. So if you have one bad snap, then now you're going to be thinking about the snap for the rest of the game. And if you don't have a quick or a fast memory to forget the snap or what you did wrong, it's probably going to linger throughout the entire game.
Absolutely. I love what you said there, explaining the direction of how your body leans and how it affects the snaps. That's definitely something I don't think a lot of people would have picked up from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
Do you think the 3-week training camps you guys had any effect on that in general?
It might have. I think in for the most part, a 3-week training camp for guys that, are learning the offense for the very first time, it's going to be a little bit more tough on the offense because you have to learn the scheme, the way the coach wants it to be done. And defense is, well, I'm not trying to like belittle what they do, but find the ball, get to the ball. Like defense is more reacting than offense. You have to actually think about where you're going, the timing, the routes, the meshes, all that kind of stuff. So it's probably going to take the offense a little bit more time to get on the same page. So I would say that could probably attribute to a little bit of that as well.
Absolutely. And I don't think you're disrespecting defensive players at all. I mean, many of them say that same exact phrase, see ball, get
Mhm.
ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of their job. It's boiled down to a very simple way to say it, but hey, at the end of the day.
Hmm.
Um, so you played for one of the most decorated and longest tenured head coaches in UCF history in George O'Leary. I
Hmm.
read in another interview you had that he was a very tough coach. Talk to me about how that helped or affected you individually as a player.
It definitely helped a lot. It's just a lot of the practices and stuff that we had at UCF, or just like you had the 15 minutes. Like we'll have meetings at 8 o'clock, and the meeting will be over at 7:55. So you have to show up 15 minutes early, and it just helps in a lot of different aspects of life, not just football. And then just the physicality of the practices that we had. Those were the hardest practices I've ever been a part of in any league. So it's like if
Wow.
I can get through a George O'Leary UCF practice, I can get through any type of practice.
That's impressive. That's
Yeah.
impressive. I mean, you've been playing for what? This is your eighth season, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, and for you to say that, you've been playing 8 seasons professionally, and it's still your college days that were the hardest practices.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to George O'Leary. That's crazy. During your time at UCF, you appeared in the CUSA championship game twice and won 3 bowl games.
Hmm.
Was there a particular game in college that sticks out before we move into your pro career?
Um, I'll probably say our senior year when we played against Louisville and went to their house. They had Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, and we were down 28-7 in the third quarter, and ended up still winning the game 38-35. That comeback, just seeing how the guys reacted on the sideline, nobody put their head down. Everybody was ready to make plays. It was just probably one of the most fun games I've ever played in.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I was expecting a different answer, but that's crazy to hear.
Yeah.
Um, so it's 2014. Unfortunately, you declared for the NFL draft, but you don't get selected. But you
Mhm.
end up almost immediately with the Green Bay Packers. How did you stay positive and continue to work toward your next opportunity after you were cut with final cuts?
It was at that point like I had a lot of great teammates, guys I'm still really good friends with, that were encouraging to me and to my family as well. But after seeing like guys that made the team that did deserve to make the team, but I knew I was just as good as or better, it was like me being so close. Why would I give up now? So it wasn't much more needed motivation or anything like that. I just knew with the right team, the right fit, I would be able to make plays and be on a roster as well. So it was even though I got cut, I wasn't too much discouraged because I know I still had was going to get more opportunities.
Which you did very quickly with the Minnesota Vikings, correct?
Hmm.
So, talk to me about what you learned from Jeff Davidson, Norv Turner, and Mike Zimmer while you were with the Vikings?
Um, a lot of what I learned in Green Bay, but just how pros are supposed to practice, how much film study goes into playing offensive line, especially a guy in my position was going to be a swing lineman, so you got to play either both guards and tackles. So just knowing the guys you're going to be playing against, the schemes, where the shade, the three tech, all that kind of stuff are going to line up, and just really studying your opponent as well, like the actual guy and not the scheme. So like the type of player you're going to be going against. It's probably some things I learned while I was in Minnesota.
Absolutely. So another question I didn't send you in the original list.
Mhm.
Just out of curiosity, when did center come into your career?
I didn't start playing center until um, 2018 with the Orlando Apollos.
Wow.
Yeah, because this was after I've been playing arena for 3 years, and my agent was talking to me about a new spring league, and he was like, Tino, show versatility, maybe you should snap. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And yeah, actually turned out really well for me. So, but yeah,
Obviously.
yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was kind of wondering because it seemed like most of the positions you were listed at was guard throughout your
Mhm.
career, and then all of a sudden, just somewhere along the way, you were playing center, and I'm like, wait a minute, where did I miss this transition here?
Yeah. No,
I mean,
yeah,
I
it's
know
literally just a conversation me and my agent had, and he thought it was a good idea, and I was like, all right, I'll try it.
absolutely. I mean, it makes sense. A lot of guards and centers seem to play, the opposite position,
Hmm.
especially in a pinch. But you seem to play both positions on a high level. So I mean, it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
In 2015, you landed with the Panthers under head coach Ron Rivera. Broncos fans, if you're listening, you should definitely remember this season. That was the year you won the Super Bowl over the 15-1 Panthers. Talk to me about your experience with the Panthers. Did you see the potential for that great of a season when you were in training camp with them?
Yeah, I definitely did. The defense was flying around. Josh Norman was a guy that was always talking in the locker room, and I didn't really know who he was at that point, but he definitely showed everybody that year. And Cam was just being Cam. He was in the prime of his career. Just got paid that off season. So I definitely seen like the potential for them to be a good team. Now, did I know they were going to go 15-1? I didn't know that, but I knew they were going to be a pretty good team.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say that any team's going to go 15-1. That was a
Yeah.
remarkable season. It was actually kind of shocking for Denver fans in general to even see Peyton Manning and the Broncos stand up to Cam Newton that season. I mean, he was nearly
Hmm.
unstoppable that year.
Right.
Ultimately, you end up having to move on from the Panthers. You wind up in the Arena Football League. How did you wind up deciding to continue your football career with the AFL? And how was it that both you and your brother ended up playing for the Predators in 2016?
So we both Justin got released from the Titans that season, and then I got released after training camp with the Panthers, and wasn't really receiving any calls for NFL teams for workouts or anything like that. And got a call from Mike DeJulio. I think he's a scout for the Saints now, but he was the general manager for the Orlando Predators. And asked if we wanted to keep playing football, and I was like, sure, why not? Like I went to a couple of arena games in Orlando because they used to play at our basketball arena. So it looked like something that maybe I could do. It was more money than I was making at the time, so I was like, why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. From a fan's perspective, I don't want to anger any NFL fans out there, but it was much more fun to watch arena football from my perspective.
Yeah, arena's an offensive game. It's really tailored towards the fans, and a lot of scoring. The wall makes it fun. It is a really good game. I enjoyed my time playing arena.
Absolutely. Can you speak on the differences between the fields from team to team in the Arena League?
Like the actual field or like just the dimensions?
Like the condition of the field, the way that
Oh,
some leagues have a round, end zone versus a squared off end zone, stuff like that.
Yes, so yeah, some have the squared, some have the rounded end zones. It makes it a little bit harder in the red zone when they are rounded because you got less field to work with. It's AstroTurf. I mean, getting ready for my first game, I didn't know that. I thought it was like field turf. So I had cleats in our walkthrough, and everybody was looking at me crazy because you got to wear regular tennis shoes.
Really
Um, yeah, I didn't know that either. But
interesting.
um, but yeah, and the turf definitely burns a lot more than regular turf when you hit it. So that's why you see a lot of guys with long sleeve shirts on or just taped up all the way to their knees and stuff like that. So, but it is a really really fun game though. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I've actually heard from several former IFL players that I've talked to recently that said it's a different kind of game. It hurts a lot more when you get hit there. I mean, you're
Yeah,
you're landing on basically cinder blocks with turf on top of it. So
yeah. So it does get pretty bad.
absolutely. So one of the wrinkles of the arena game that you actually made me aware of is the fact that your offensive guards can go catch passes. And so
Yep.
talk to me about catching 17 passes for 162 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Um, honestly really really fun. I like to view myself as a really good athlete, so being able to catch the ball and run with it and showcase a little bit of that was always fun. Probably should have had a little bit more, but I always joke with my offensive coordinators about it, like I'm always open. But it was a whole lot of fun. So in the arena league, whichever guard raises their hand before the play is the one that's eligible for passes. So that's usually how the defense sets up.
Gotcha. See, that was a fact that I had never heard before. I was
Hmm.
looking up your statistics throughout leagues. I came across that, and like to let you guys in behind the scenes a little bit, I literally asked him if that was a misprint because if you caught my Trey Ford interview, I asked him a quarterback about returning punts based on statistics from his college, right? They were misattributed. It was
Yeah.
supposed to go to his brother who was a defensive back and a punt returner. So I
Okay.
was wondering, I was like, man, could that have been his older brother? Could it have been some other player with the last name of McCray? Like you just don't know. I'd rather know that what I'm talking about is actually true. And in fact, this was one of those times where these surprising statistics you don't expect to see from a guard were in fact true, which was
Hmm.
kind of cool. And yet another thing that just makes you incredibly versatile and just showcases the kind of athlete you are, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
So another thing that I was not aware of existed. You were drafted in what's called the dispersal draft. Explain to me and our listeners what that was and how it all worked.
So after 2016, the Orlando team in the AFL folded. So, but since rookies are the only ones that have multiple year contracts in the AFL, my contract, anyone who was under contract while the league folded, it was immediately put in a draft, um, and pretty much teams were picked at random. And if they liked the player that was on that roster, they could pick him.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. Okay. See, that was, I kind of wondered if it was like an expansion draft or something of the sort, but it's quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
Gotcha. In 2018, you wind up on the suspended list. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly caused this, and how did you get reinstated just 2 days later?
So I got on the suspended list because I didn't report to camp on time. I was driving from Miami to Baltimore and underestimated how sleepy I would get on the drive. So I ended up staying one day in Atlanta before I went up to Baltimore. So for that day, or day or two, or however long it was, before I actually practiced, I was on the suspended list.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I was like,
Mhm.
it must have been something minor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been reinstated 2 days later. That's kind
Yeah,
of weird.
yeah, yeah. No, it was nothing major.
I kind of figured it had something to do with not reporting due to something like that, but
Mm,
figured I'd ask. Um, in 2019, you again returned to Orlando, this time with the Alliance of American Football,
hmm.
Orlando's Apollos. You worked under head coach Steve Spurrier at the time. What did you
Yeah.
learn from him during your time with the AAF?
Coach Spurrier was actually a really, really good time to be around. He's a really, really brilliant offensive mind, and probably just if I was ever going to be a coach, I would reach out to Coach Spurrier and ask him about attacking defenses because that was something that seemed like innate to him. Like whatever a defense was bad at, he was going to exploit it. Usually through the pass, but every now and then we would run the ball as well. So it was, and he didn't have a problem if something worked to keep going back to that well. Like I remember we played the Salt Lake Stallions, and the game was terrible. It was freezing. It was snowing, and we called maybe 20 halfback draws that game and
I
ran
mean,
for
if
like
it's working,
180 yards. So
yeah.
yeah, he it's probably what I learned from him. If something is working, keep going to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was a lot of good coaches on that staff, actually. Shout out to Lito Shepard, former Eagle, that was the
Hmm.
safeties coach on that staff. So you guys were 7-1 when
Yeah.
it week 8 hit. How did you find out the AAF was closing down? And were there rumors ahead of time? Did you kind of hear whispers, or was it just out of nowhere all of a sudden?
No,
They
we heard rumors. So we even the week before we had heard rumors. Like one of the funny stories I tell a lot of people is a good friend of mine, Charles James Jr., was playing on the Memphis team, and things were getting chippy while we played our last game there. And he walks into both huddles like guys are about to fight. He's like, I don't know why y'all getting so mad. Y'all better enjoy it. The league's gonna end on Monday. So we had a pretty good idea about what was gonna happen.
Wow.
How we found out for real is we have a walkthrough before practice. We did our walkthrough. We come back to the locker room to like put pads on and all that kind of stuff. And people are getting text notifications that the league folded. And then Coach Spurrier walks in and says, "I hope you guys probably already know, but it's all over." So he said, "Thanks for a really good season. If there's anything he can do to help us, he will." But that's about it.
Wow. I mean, talk to me about how you felt at the time hearing that. I mean, that's got to be a hard hit.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely was because I felt like we had a team to win a championship that year, and I wanted to finish. That would have been at the time my first professional ring, and just had a really good bond with a lot of the guys on the team. Like we still talk to this day. So not being able to finish something you started kind of hurt a little bit, and it was a little bit bittersweet because my agent was already telling me that teams were reaching out in the NFL. So I was anxious to figure out where I was going to be going next, but disappointed that we didn't get to finish the season.
Absolutely. I can definitely understand that. That's got to be a rough hit for sure. After the AAF folded, you landed with another upstart league in the XFL. Again, landing in your home state of Florida, this time with the Tampa Bay Vipers, led by
Mhm.
another great offensive mind, Mark Tressman. However, you also made a very important connection with Jonathan Heimbach, who was your O-line coach at the time. Hopefully, I didn't butcher his last name.
No, you said it right.
Okay, cool. This was the second time you were selected in a draft after going undrafted in the NFL. How did this feel for you at the time?
It felt good to have a team that acknowledged my ability and wanted me to play, and just a way to keep getting better because my ultimate goal is to play in the NFL game. So just getting the opportunity to showcase my talents again and try to catapult myself back into the NFL was a I guess happy moment for myself.
Absolutely. Tampa Bay had a solid season that year. A lot of interesting games, that's for sure. I was a big fan of Quentin Flowers.
Oh yeah, Q is a really good player. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, he's always been fun to watch in all the different leagues he's played in. I think he's in the FCF right now, correct? Do
yeah.
you
The
know?
last time I checked, he was playing in the indoor league. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this is your second league that's in the spring football realm of the world. You made it 5 games this time. How did you end up finding out this league was shutting down?
We pretty much had an idea of this one as well. Like we're getting ready for practice, And this is around the time the NBA said that they were stopping their play because of COVID, and the MLB said the same thing. And it's kind of like if the NBA and the MLB aren't going to play, we definitely aren't. So we're getting ourselves ready for that. And we were told that the league was still going to be around. We actually kept getting paid for about another month before they said that they couldn't pay us anymore. So a little bit softer of a blow than it was in the AAF because we kind of seen this one coming.
Absolutely. I mean, not to put words in your mouth yet again, but I feel like the XFL would probably still exist to this day if it wasn't for COVID hitting when it did.
Yeah,
That league had some great play on the field, lots of fan support. Um, I thought solid team names. It didn't look gimmicky. There was a lot of reasons why that the league would probably still be around to this day.
no, I
Um,
believe that as well.
but unfortunately, COVID flipped the world upside down on us all. And you found yourself looking for a job again. And it looked like you landed with Chicago for a short time.
Yeah, I was in Chicago for all of training camp pretty much. Played really well. Started the last three games at right guard and thought that was going to be the opportunity that I needed to actually make an NFL roster, but it just didn't happen to work out. So
Absolutely. It's just one of those situations.
yeah,
Uh, so for the 2021 season, you ended up landing in the IFL with the Massachusetts Pirates. How would you compare your time with the IFL to your time with the AFL? How are the two leagues different?
the AFL is more of its own game, and the IFL is more of um outdoor football, but only 8 people. So it's similar. You got guys in high motion running down the field before the play starts, but the difference in the IFL and the AFL is in the AFL, the running back is actually just another offensive lineman. Like I played what they call the tight end position when I played in the AFL, and my brother played the fullback position, which was just a bigger athletic offensive lineman as well, pretty much. And in the IFL, we have actual running backs. So
Yeah,
I'll probably say that's the biggest difference. But a lot of points scored, really fun game, and I enjoyed my time in the IFL just as much as the AFL.
absolutely. We here on Shady Sports Network are huge fans of the IFL. Had a few players on here that play in the league currently and huge fans of it. It's fun to watch. Like you said, it's a lot like the outdoor game, just indoor, which
Yeah,
is very awesome. So, with Massachusetts, you actually ended up winning your first professional championship ring, correct?
yeah,
So, how did that feel to finally reach kind of the pinnacle of the league you were playing in at the time?
that was really fun, man. I had a really really good time, and a lot of those guys are really good players, but also good people. Still really good friends with a lot of them. Some of them are here. My roommate here in Birmingham plays for the New Orleans team here in the USFL, but we've been teammates and friends since our days in the AAF. He was on my team with the Apollos, with the Vipers, and then the IFL, and then we're in the same league, just not the same team here. So a lot of the guys still talk to every day, and it was a really good experience. And the ring we got is pretty sick too. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I had seen that. I think it was four of your Pirates teammates were drafted in the USFL, and that was
mhm.
one of them, your roommate.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, Marquise Lucas. Yep.
That's cool. Do you know the other two who were drafted?
Yeah, yeah. Jared Thomas. Really, really good friend. Still talk to him dang near every day. And both of them play for the Breakers. And then Ahmad Dixon was another one, and he plays for the Philadelphia team. Talk to him often too. And the last one is Toby Johnson, who actually plays nose guard for the Generals. So we got to go against each other week one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely know who Toby Johnson is. The other
Yeah,
names I'm not familiar with, but you can bet I will look into them now.
yeah,
So we have a listener question. They say, what was the Pirates organization like? I heard they're pretty good for an indoor team.
yeah. No, it was a really good experience. Great housing, a lot of good players, good coaching, and Boston. Well, we were in Worcester, Massachusetts, not actually Boston, so about an hour out. But it was a good place, friendly. They love their football, and yeah, it's a pretty good organization, man. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've heard one of the things about the IFL is there are some organizations that are clearly better run than the rest, and I've heard actually the same thing is that Massachusetts is one of the better run teams in the league.
Yeah, definitely.
So heading into the 22 season, we started hearing rumblings way back in like I think August of 2021 that the USFL was coming back.
Hmm.
Uh, it was a partnership between Fox and Brian Woods. Were you immediately intrigued by the league, or were you apprehensive given your experience with the AAF and XFL?
No, I was immediately intrigued because indoor football is fun, really great game. But in order to get better playing outdoor football and then getting back into the NFL, I feel like playing in a league like this would be my best option. So once I've heard the rumblings about it, I was immediately intrigued and pretty much followed all the information to see where I might go or what coaches are going to be a part of the league, so I could figure out where I would be a good fit at.
Absolutely. You ultimately end up hearing your name called in round 20 about midway through the draft, making this the third time you were selected in a draft. How did it feel to once again be told you belonged in pro football despite all the setbacks you have had over the past seasons?
It felt good. It felt good that people acknowledge my talent, that I still get a chance to play the game that I love for pretty good compensation, and to be able to still chase my dreams at 29. So it's like every opportunity I get is a dream come true because that's one step closer to being where I want to be.
Absolutely. I was actually intrigued to see that you had played this long. I knew you were drafted a while back, but I didn't realize it was your eighth season. And
Hmm.
one of the things that we had heard about the USFL is that they were not looking for very veteran players. And I guess you're a living example that that is not necessarily true. Maybe it was just not the right combination of age and talent, is all.
Yeah, that I guess that could be it too. But I'm just glad that I was one of the. I guess I am one of the older players in this league, but I'm just happy to be a part of it still.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're only 29, so you're still pretty young. I mean, this is just football standards, which is asinine sometimes. Um,
Yeah,
if the guy can still play, let him play, as far as I'm concerned.
definitely.
Um, how big of a factor was your current offensive line coach, Jonathan Heimbach, in bringing you to Birmingham in the draft?
I think a huge factor, to be honest. I heard from three different teams before the draft, had extensive talks with two of them, and one of them was pretty much a DM asking for film. And the first time I heard about Birmingham, me being selected by Birmingham, is he texted me 5 minutes before the draft or before the center draft, and was like, "Welcome to Birmingham." And I was like, "Why are you texting me?" Like I hadn't talked to Jaime in like 2 months. And this was I was at a barber shop and he called me and said, I got the job a couple of days ago, man. I'm excited I got the chance to pick you and work with you again. So that was really my first time hearing from Birmingham the entire process. So it was exciting, but love Coach Jaime, great coach, and happy to be under him again.
Absolutely. So we got a couple more fan questions rolling in. Lance Dominguez wants to know if you have any memories from your time with the Packers.
Um, yeah, I mean just the tradition at Green Bay was always super fun. The bike rides and training camp. I was on and off the practice squad pretty much all year that year before I went to Minnesota, and was my first time seeing snow for real. So that was I thought it was gonna be a lot better experience. I don't like the cold that much, so but I'll probably say that some of the guys I met while I was there, I'm still good friends with. Jaron Elliott, um, Andrew Tiller, who was my teammate in two of the league, the spring league, the AAF and the XFL. And no, it was a really good experience for my first pro experience.
Absolutely. He also wanted to know if your brother was Justin McCray, which, as we all know, yes, he is.
Yeah,
He says
yeah.
he's a big fan of Justin, which you should be a big fan of Jordan then too, because he's awesome as well. So we have another great question. This is a good question that I didn't even think about asking. Have you noticed any issues with the chip and the balls? Is it particularly heavy? Is it different from an NFL ball?
The ball is just a little bit smaller than an NFL ball would be, and I haven't noticed any change with the chip because my snaps only go 5 yards. But a lot of the kickers and even the quarterbacks have told me that when you're trying to complete longer kicks or longer passes, the ball tends to sail in whatever direction the chip is in. So they said it has been a little bit of a problem, but I guess they're getting to the bottom of it for at least kickers. I know they're going to have designated balls just to kick. Like I know it was a really bad weekend for the field goal kickers. I think it was like 3 of 12 or something like
Yeah.
that. And so they're going to have designated balls just for kicking this weekend, but I'm not sure what they're going to do for it in regards into the passing game.
Absolutely. So maybe you can shed some light on one of these questions that I had on this specific topic. Is the chip loose in the ball, or is it mounted hard in the ball and then it's in one specific spot?
It's in one specific spot. So it's not loose in the ball, but it's in one
Okay.
specific spot. But like when the wind gets to it, I guess after a long pass or being in the air for too long, I guess it makes the ball drift a little bit.
I could see that. One heavy spot is going to draw the ball one way. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, oh, here's another good question while we're at it. You've played for many teams. Which stand out to you as the best run or just interesting in general?
Well, it probably had to be the NFL. So I would say either Green Bay or Carolina. Both of those are really well run organizations. Green Bay, I'll probably say Green Bay.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, even NFL players, I mean, most players that play for them say the same thing, it seems. Um, okay, here's the question that I really couldn't wait to ask. What are the differences between the AAF, the XFL, and the USFL in your eyes so far? And what makes you confident that the USFL will make it through season one?
The difference in the AAF between the AAF is the USFL has real backing, like with Fox and then primary broadcaster. So and they're taking all the precautions to make sure that money won't be a problem. Like all of us playing the first season in a hub spot in Birmingham, um, even down to the fact that they're not essentially paying for the hotels for us. They give us a discounted rate, or we can find housing for ourselves. And at first, it kind of sucks, but when you look at the longevity of it, if they're saving cost on that, then they're probably creating as much revenue as they possibly can, and that's probably better for a sustainable league. The XFL was a pretty well run league as well. I think just having COVID hit in the middle of the first season was just pretty bad. But I'll probably say the most organized out of all the three for sure is the USFL. The XFL was still good, and then the AAF was just a roller coaster to be honest. So
Yeah, I mean, in all my research of the AAF, it sounds like there was a whole lot going on behind the scenes that didn't really come out
mhm.
until investors started dropping out, like the cryptocurrency fraud with one of the large investors, and then he pulls out in week one, and then Tom Dundon comes in, and it sounded like he more or less just wanted technology from the league, and yeah, it is crazy all the
Yeah.
things that came out with the so I'm going to show a quick clip from your recent game because I just couldn't help it. But here it is.
30 seconds left in the game, trailing 21-24. Quarterback Jamar Smith, he came in halfway through the game for Magoo, takes this one himself for the win. We're going to pop up the final score, 28-24. Birmingham Stallions are 1-0 on the season.
Sip. Didn't mean to click on that twice. Sorry about that. So there right at the end, number 51, you see his
Mhm.
jersey. McCray pops in, blocks, key block, scored the touchdown right there. So Jamar Smith, I don't know if he offered it to you, but that should say Jamar Smith / Justin McCray or Jordan McCray, sorry, on the Offensive Player of the Week trophy this week. Just saying. But yeah, that was an amazing hustle block. You kind of ran in out of nowhere and then, cleared open a path, and it
Mhm.
was just awesome to see. And I think my cohort Evan Wilsmore pointed it out great that you probably won that game for Birmingham. There was 30 seconds left on the clock, and if you had not scored there, who knows what happens? I mean,
Who
you won
knows?
by 4 points. So that was an awesome block, awesome play. What did it mean for you to not only be able to win game one, but be a crucial part of the game-winning play?
It means a lot, man. Like just being on a team with a whole bunch of good players, like Jamar especially, like didn't know when his time was gonna come, but came in for us and played exceptionally well. All the guys on the line played really well as also Darius, Tuck, Cam, Pope, all those guys did really well. Like we all did our what we call our 1/11th. Don't do too much. Just make sure you do your job. And just to be able to win that game and start the season off right and put some more money in our pockets, man, that's always a good thing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if anybody didn't catch it, Jordan kind of alluded to it right there. These guys get win bonuses for these games.
mhm,
So that has got to be particularly sweet after the first victory. You
definitely,
started 1-0. Hopefully you're able to continue it into week 2 and collect another sweet check after another victory. Um,
absolutely.
One thing I was curious about, being that you're still relatively in the southern side of the United States, have any of
Mhm.
your family members been able to come up and catch games of yours?
Oh yeah, my brother came to the last game. My mom and dad, a couple of their, well, I guess my godparents, my girl came to the game as well. And it's been a lot of people come to show support. We have a lot of family in Atlanta because my mom's from Augusta. They just moved up to Atlanta, so some of them came. And no, it was a really good turnout, especially for our game. Like I had
Yeah.
probably, I think I had 19 tickets last week. So
Wow.
yeah, so my best friend came up to the game also. So it was a really good turnout.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, out of curiosity, given your experience with the AAF and the XFL, what did you make of the attendance after your game in the other 3 games?
Um, well, I guess it was kind of just not the best of timing for the other games. I know we're the home team, so we're probably going to always generate the biggest crowd. But it being Easter weekend and the weather being like terrible last weekend kind of played a part in why there wasn't as much attendance. But I think a lot of people seeing how good the product on the field is, and we'll have a lot more turnout this weekend when things aren't so busy
Absolutely.
and the weather isn't so bad.
Absolutely. One question I wanted to ask, this is more speculation on my part. Do you think that we would have more uh, fan representation from each specific team had they done training camps in their host cities?
I think so. It just being able to showcase a little bit more of the talent, have like some media days or some open practices where people can see what exactly is going on the field, whether they want to support it or not. And I think just everyone being here and just watching from the house, we have some pretty good TV ratings, but it probably would have been a little bit more had they been able to do their training camps in their host city. So.
Absolutely. One more kind of random question that I did not add to the list, it just kind of
Mhm.
came up. Um, One thing I've heard suggested prior to this is that the USFL should consider, I guess it's more Fox in this specific instance, but Fox should consider posting up the full game 24 hours after the broadcast on YouTube or some other streaming source for fans to digest that game as well that way. Do you think this would increase fan interaction and viewership overall?
I think so, because you never know what somebody has going on throughout the day. If they can't watch the game at the air time and just have a chance to watch it afterwards, maybe it'll free up their schedule for next week once they see how well we're playing or how good the games are, and probably add to a little bit more fans watching that way. So I think that would be a good idea.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. um, how do you approach film study as a center? Are you looking at the defense as a whole to see how they attack things for your protection calls, or are you strictly keying on the defensive line?
No, I look at it from a whole scheme standpoint. Once I learned how to study defenses, the safeties will tell the entire story of the defense, where they line up, if they're off the hash, are they capping somebody like right over top. So just know what like knowing where the defensive line may go based on where the safeties are, and just what the scheme of the defense is trying to accomplish first. And then I'll get into a little bit more personnel, like what does the nose guard do? How does the linebackers play run fits? When they blitz, what's their moves they go to? And things of that nature. But most of the time, it goes from the outside in, looking at the safeties, seeing how they line up, what the defense does based on their alignments, and then after that, figuring out what type of defense they are and the personnel that they have with everything that they're doing.
Definitely makes sense. How much changing at the line is there in the USFL so far, given the short training camps?
It's a little bit. It's a little bit, not as much, but once people start getting more film on other guys and being able to disguise what they do, there probably will be a little bit more changes, like just protection changes or audibles or anything like that. But week one is always a little bit more difficult because you don't know exactly what you're going to be going up against. You have what might be good versus this defense versus this coverage, and then you kind of go into the game with a vanilla game plan and then just make adjustments afterwards. The first week is all about adjustments. This week is more about scheme and attacking someone.
Makes sense, definitely. So we got a couple more good questions.
Mhm.
You've played for, oh, sorry, wrong one. Thoughts on the XFL return in 2023? Would you be inclined to return if given the opportunity?
I mean, at this point, I would keep all doors open. My goal is to play well in this league and get another opportunity to play in the NFL. If that doesn't happen this time around, yeah, I would be open to any opportunity. I wouldn't close any door right now.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Isn't there something built into your contracts with the USFL that you kind of have to stay or something like that, at least through the first year,
I
other than
think
the
I
NFL?
think through the first year, but it's only a calendar year, not an actual like
Oh, okay,
season.
gotcha.
So um,
Gotcha.
once that's up, then I feel like everybody's a free agent, unless you're going to the NFL. Once if you get an NFL opportunity after the season, you're allowed to go immediately.
Awesome. That's awesome. So is there any way to explain the level of competition for an O lineman in the NFL? Uh, I played in a low level of college, and I just can't imagine what you guys go through.
Um, the way I'll probably explain the level of competition is in college, you have a couple of guys that are like really, really good, and maybe you might play them for like 3 or 4 snaps and they get a break and somebody else comes in that's not as good. In the NFL, it's a rotation of guys that are all very, very good or skillful football players. So there's no break. You have to be technically sound because they're going to be rotating guys. They're going to be fresh. You're not going to be fresh. Um, so it's really just about the advantage you get is knowing the personnel you're going against and then knowing the tendencies of their alignments. So that's how you get your advantage. And but it's all good competition. I mean, everywhere you go, there's guys that probably shouldn't be there, and guys that are really good and really shouldn't be there either. But you just got to go with the punches.
Absolutely. He asks one more question. What is the
Mhm.
practice schedule like in your league?
It's different for every team because we a lot of the some of the spaces that we use are shared. So 4 teams practice in the morning, and then we'll have a little bit of a break, lift weights, have meetings, and so pretty much it's a full day from like 8:30 to 6, with a little bit of a break in between. And then if you practice in the morning and meet in the evening, then the other teams will meet in the mornings and practice in the evening. So pretty much the
Gotcha.
same schedule, same lift schedule, and just either a morning practice or evening practice.
Interesting. Interesting. I was wondering how that worked too with the hub season.
Mhm.
Uh, Heading into week 2, talk to me about your upcoming matchup with defensive tackles Dominique Davis, Josh Avery, and Corey Thomas of the Houston Gamblers.
Yeah, they have a really good defense. Good players, great scheme, and it's gonna be a really good game for us. Being able to see those guys is gonna make it beneficial. Like actually having a week one game to review and study is gonna make things easier for us. But they have the same thing and been studying us and probably put together a well put game plan. So it'll be a good game. I'm excited to see how well we do.
Absolutely. It will be one of those games where I think that both teams are very well matched, so it should be a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
So I got a couple more questions before I cut you loose. What did you? Oh, I actually covered that one already. Sorry about that. Was
That's
the
good.
attendance something that you worry about as a player?
Attendance.
Yeah,
Um, I'm I'm not gonna lie. For me, no. Like there's so much going on in the game. I'm not really worried about how many people are there or how little people are there. For our game, I was excited that there was a lot though, because the atmosphere was crazy. Like just the crowd yelling, everybody getting after it. Like it was things like that make the game more fun. But if there was zero people in the stands, I'm still trying to play my hardest and put on a good show. So not that much of a difference.
gotcha. I was more thinking like long term future worry. Are you worried about the
Oh,
future
okay,
of the
okay.
league?
No, not well. At least not for the first season, because it's like we're not. At least for a lot of the other games, people aren't going to be traveling that much just for this game. Like if they had their own home team and stuff like that, I'm sure the crowds would be better. And next year will probably be a good tell sign to see how the longevity of the league will be sustainable.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think with Fox involved, I think they're looking at TV ratings almost as much, if not more, than they're looking at attendance. Personally.
Yeah.
Um, what can we expect to see you doing after your playing career? Is it coaching? Are you an executive type? Can we see you in broadcasting world, or are you going to do something completely out of football like your brother?
Nah. Whatever I do, I would like to still be around the game. I mean, I love football, every aspect of it. I've thought about broadcasting. I've done a little bit of coaching in my spare time now, and that's something I could see myself doing. But something that keeps me involved with the game still is probably something you'll see me doing after I'm done playing.
Makes sense. Where have you coached recently, if you don't mind me asking?
So when my brother lived in Atlanta when he played for the Falcons, and I took up a coaching job at Mountain View High School. It's right outside of Beaufort, and coached the offensive line and tight ends there. And when I can't even remember what year this was, but at Piper High School, it might have been 2018. I was a co-offensive line coach there as well. So that's something I could see myself doing.
Interesting. Interesting. That would be cool to see for sure.
Yeah.
One more bonus question, then I swear I'll let you get out of here.
No,
Um,
you all good.
um, could if you were to get approached by a situation that where they needed you to play tight end, I don't know how this would ever happen because you're the starting center, but would you feel comfortable going out there and playing split out or not split out, but in line as a tight end?
Definitely. Yeah. I
All
play
right.
essentially. I'll just look at myself as a tackle that might be able to go out for a route here and there, and I feel like I'm a pretty good route runner too. Might be a little overconfident, but I feel I'll flourish in that situation too.
Hey man, you're a professional athlete. You're supposed to be confident. I don't blame you there. So definitely thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate talking to you, and it was a lot of fun to research your career. I mean, seeing you succeed basically everywhere you've gone was kind of cool, and then seeing how you're persevering even through watching two leagues shut down, and you were not at all deterred by the USFL. You jumped right in, both feet first. I love it. I love the way you
Yeah.
approach the game, man. It's awesome. So
Appreciate it, man.
I wish you nothing but success in the rest of your career, and I would love to have you back on maybe after the season. We can check in with you. Hopefully, you've got another ring on your finger after that.
Yeah. But
Okay,
yeah, no, I'll definitely come back on, man. Just let me know when.
cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate everything. Once again, you've been nothing but a gentleman and a scholar. I hope you have a great night, and I will definitely catch up with you in the future.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Catch you later. So once again, guys, that was Jordan McCray. Just a genuine, awesome guy. I had a lot of fun, like I said, researching his career. He's an interesting player, interesting career. I mean, how often do you find NFL player, or sorry, USFL player in this particular case, that has a twin that also plays at that high of a level, and see them play on the same squad in Florida with the Predators? That was super cool. I can't imagine playing at a professional level with your brother on the same squad. That has got to be such a different kind of feeling that I could never possibly imagine to experience. But just a huge shout out to Jordan. Like I said, great dude. Wish him nothing but success. If you didn't know who he was before this, I hope you do now. And you definitely need to look into him and follow the Birmingham Stallions this season. Obviously, they're proving a lot of doubters wrong after week 1 already. I wish him nothing but luck in week 2. They got a tough matchup against the Houston defense that proved themselves very, very good in week 1. They call themselves the top defense. Let's see if Jordan and the Stallions can prove them wrong in week 2. That's all I've got for you guys tonight. Thanks for joining me. A lot of you guys popped in with comments. I appreciate it. Great questions in the comments. I hope you guys all stick with me. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. We've got more player interviews, coaches interviews coming up in the weeks following. I'm going to try and focus on some more USFL players, but not all of them are going to be as cool as Jordan to join me mid-season. So definitely, if you haven't already, shout him out on Twitter or wherever. He definitely deserves all the thanks because it was super awesome to get him on here, not only midweek, but right before game day. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great night, and I'll catch you in the next video.